Welcome to the elimination bracket section of Kharak Cup number 2. This is a game played between Rompafrolic and Descara. You can consider this like the semifinals, right? Because there's a best-of-3 series between these two players, and a best-of-3 series between Garmulator and myself, and then the winner of those two best-of-3 series will play each other in the grand finals. So, pretty important match here for Rompafrolic. Of course, he played Descara earlier in the tournament because of the Swiss style. Basically, everyone played everyone else. So this is kind of a chance for him to get back into this, show that he can beat Descara perhaps. And Descara, meanwhile, is going to want to absolutely wreck him because he's Descara. We'll see who gets their wish, I suppose. In Kharak Cup number 1, I would have said that Descara would just like murderize him, but Rompafrolic has been playing actually really well. So let's see what he's going to try to pull off here. I still don't suspect that this is going to go particularly well for him. Of course, we know that Descara is such a legendary coalition player, but still very interested to see what he can pull off here. He's gone for some early Sandskimmer fabrication, so excuse me. We'll be interested to see if he's going for some early aggression or maybe for a tech rush. Descara, however, is going for support cruiser first, which, I mean, coalition players can usually get away with that anyway, but especially on this map where it's so easy to defend your main. Going to be very, very easy for Descara to pull off a support cruiser first build here. Rompafrolic, meanwhile, does not seem to have any desires of going so economic. That may be difficult for him if he's not able to do some damage in the early game, but we'll have to see. Descara not moving out very far as base runner. He's not using the probe either. I think that's kind of interesting. Because he basically doesn't have any information on what his opponent is doing. He must just be so confident in his ability to hold this area that he just says, you know, I don't even care like what my opponent is doing. Honestly, who can blame him? It's the shallows after all. Very, very easy to hold this area. Three Sandskimmers now out on the map for Rompafrolic. Base runner leading the charge there. Now 4 Sandskimmers, and these two I think are just running out here to see if there's anyone on this third base. That would be like incredibly greedy if someone was on the third base, because it would mean that they hadn't even teched into anything yet. So that's good to know that no one's there. And I guess it's like the unwritten rule of the shallows that this is the one you go for first because it's a little bit closer. Although it'd be interesting to try like going for this one first sometime to like trick your opponent, make him think that you're going for more economy than you are, but I don't know. Descara now beginning to produce some LAVs of his own, probably because he sees these guys kind of chilling on his doorstep there. Getting shot at by a turret. I was going to say just kind of admiring that coalition carrier, but not anymore. They're going to run away. Although one of them getting shot by the turret does not die, which is always pretty nice. Usually like when you scout a turret, you just lose that unit who scouted it, and maybe even another one because turrets do so much damage and have so much range. But Rompafrolic on top of his micro there manages to get away from that turret. He seems to be mostly interested in getting this base runner out with these Sandskimmers here. He could go for refinery mode, he could go for some kind of tech, but no, base runners. Why? I mean, why not, after all? So we'll see what those base runners are able to do for him. This Sandskimmer here, not having the best of days, just getting shot at. Doesn't even seem to notice it, really. Ah, now he's shooting back, but he goes down. So that's a nice pickup for Descara. Always what you want in the early games, just get some free kills like that. These LAVs just bullying these Sandskimmers, but not going to be able to hold that position, and they will back away. First artifact being extracted from Rompafrolic. He's going to have a second picked up, and probably a third. Yeah, this base runner ought to win this fight right here. In fact, coalition base runners are even slightly slower. The Sandskimmer is coming in for a bit of a dive here on this base runner. And I rather felt like that could have been punished by the LAVs, but because there were 5 Sandskimmers and 5 LAVs, LAVs win on a one-on-one fight, so I think he actually could have pushed in there and done some damage. Instead, he's going to tank a lot of these shots from this base runner, which is a little unfortunate for Descara. He's going to be slightly upset about having taken so much damage on the base runner. And he'll push these Sandskimmers away eventually. The missile ship already out on the field just in case there's air units at the 5-minute mark. You never know, he's playing against Descara. I honestly feel like that's not the worst idea. Gonna fire missile barrage, but that's not gonna hit. Now there's, how many sand skimmers over here? About 7, 8 LAVs. And he doesn't need to worry about bunching up here because, of course, he's got a missile ship. Descara is kind of feeling the artifact pressure as the score is already 2-0, so he's going to try to take down this base runner. Using the heal ability, it is just barely going to survive. No, I think it's going to go down, actually, in the end. That's the thing about the base runner heal ability. Like, that actually healed Descara's sand skimmers, like, rather considerably. See, that's a better heal ability because now it's just healing the sand skimmers. Although they should really push off it. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, one more sand skimmer went down, I noticed. So, Descara still keeping a little bit of an edge in this early game battle as well. And notably, as you can see, he's producing now his second support cruiser, which means he's going to go for this third base now. Rompafrolic's still on 1 base. So that's my biggest worry here for Rompafrolic, is that he doesn't have the economy to deal with this kind of stuff. Actually, that's quite nice. The turret auto-fired against the base runner, which meant that the sand skimmers didn't get hit at first. Okay, I thought they weren't going to complete the kill there. That would have been tragic. Bunch of LAVs going to try to chase down these sand skimmers a little bit, but they see the missile ships and they back away. They don't want to push too far in. And now it's going to be railgun tech for Rompafrolic. I really don't understand, like, I don't know. I mean, it is Descara and he often goes for fighters and gunships, but I'm sure that's not the reason why Rompafrolic made these missile ships, because he did it in the other games as well. I really don't understand this choice. Like, there is kind of a funny tech build that you can do. It's kind of like a joke, where you make missile ships early on and then like bombard the economy and destroy it from like over a hill. But it's kind of like a joke, you know, like you can't actually do this in a real match. And look, they're gonna do like damage to the carrier, but then the carrier's just gonna kill him off here. I just feel like these missile ships are just not effective at all in strikecraft battles like this. Like, even if you trust your micro abilities and distrust your opponents so much that you're sure you can hit the barrages pretty effectively, it still is not usually worth it. So, gotta say, I disagree with that tech choice there, but to each his own, I suppose. Descara, meanwhile, seems to just be kind of done with this whole thing already. And he's just, you know, he's forsaken this third base. I don't need that. He's getting his power reserves and he's driving his carrier right down into his opponent's face. Now, Rompafrolic had researched railguns, so possibly he could... Oh, I don't like this move, though. He's moving his carrier in here. The power is about equal, except that Descara is about to get power reserve 3 finished. What Rompafrolic really needs to do here is produce some railguns. But not having refinery mode and moving your carrier away from your economy, that's not going to help with anything. Rompafrolic's economy is essentially 0 at the moment, so that's something I would be a little bit worried about. Yeah, it looks like he wants to move that back now. Armored assault vehicles, by the way, coming out now for Descara, as well as railguns that he's producing. That's going to be the tech choice for him, is those 2 units. The sand skimmers coming in and finding quite a good angle, actually, on these LAVs. But of course the LAVs are going to get saved by the turret in this case. Actually pushing further in. What are the upgrades like here? Upgrades are even. These LAVs ought to almost all go down if it weren't for the turret, but I believe the turret will save these 3 left. But it seemed like really quite a mismicro from Descara actually to push them back in there. Big group of AAVs coming in here, gonna shut down this artifact almost certainly. May even kill the base runner here. There's really no... There's assault railguns getting produced. I don't know if I like the choice of assault railguns here because your opponent's carrier was like near here, and assault railguns have like the same DPS as normal railguns, but against high armored targets like, you know, a carrier for example, they really do almost nothing. Anyway, the artifact went down, and Descara is gonna exfiltrate these AAVs. He may choose to keep him kind of in the backline here so that it's easier for him to backstab with him later on when he desires to. These sand skimmers getting a nice denial on the base runner. I appreciate that quite a lot. Another base runner as well went down right there. I believe that was a coalition base runner. So Rompafrolic, to his credit, is stopping Descara from getting any kind of... actually, not a bad missile barrage there, but he's keeping him from getting any artifact lead on him. Which is also very good because it stops him from getting extra carrier power. Descara now making his third support cruiser, going on to a third base pretty soon. And refinery mode is finished for Rompafrolic, so his economy is now on track. Although he took quite an economic hit right there, you know, not having the carrier nearby for so long. But he is getting refinery mode now, so he'll be on 3 bases before too long. Just look at the army disadvantage though, you know, like Descara had just thrown away all those LAVs and already he's back to like the same number of LAVs. He's got more railguns and he's got AAVs on the field. I think going for refinery mode earlier would definitely have been in Rompafrolic's favor. It's a lot of CUs to put in, it always is kind of painful to get it, but like it makes such a big difference. Who's getting shot out there? Oh, just a scanner. Look how far I can zoom out. that's the only thing I can focus on right now, there's no action going on. Rompafrolic's starting to get aggressive with his carrier here. He's got quite a bit of power into speed. Not sure what he's hoping on finding out there. Power reserve 4 almost finished for Descara. Tell you what, he's got base runners, so of course that means this carrier will win this fight, right? No, it doesn't. 3 base? Oh my goodness. That's so many base runners. Oh, and he's going to use the heal ability right here, so he's also going to die. Well, at least he could have, if this carrier had chosen to stick around. Actually, both players retreating away from each other there. That's a little interesting. Because Descara definitely did not need to leave there. Excuse me. Any new tech choices coming out from these players? No, not just yet. Although Descara is getting up to power reserve 5, and we know that's the critical one to unlock the nuke. That cruise missile just destroys your opponent entirely in one shot. And Rompafrolic is really just letting this happen. You know, like from his side, it may seem like, well, I haven't been pushed aggressively at all yet. But that's not enough against a coalition player. If you let them build up the power that they need to get like the cruise missile out, then you've basically given up the game right there. Missile barrage is almost going to find one of the railguns, but not quite. And those missile ships, well, they may have dissuaded Descara from going for a air tech choice. I really feel like that's the only advantage that they've given to Rompafrolic. Missile barrages generally have not done much. These sand scanners here found a nice angle on the railguns with this carriers here. I feel like that's probably just going to hold them off. And the LAVs boosting in. LAVs are like wicked fast when they use their boost. They go from like 110 to 170 speed. It's like, it's crazy. It's still slower than most production cars would drive on a highway, but still. Quite fast for Deserts of Kharak. This carrier here, now once again trying to get involved into the action, but there's a fair number of railguns back there. And on top of that, this carrier is much stronger. And I feel like Descara doesn't know that yet, or maybe he's just trying to play safe because he knows he's got the game in the bag already. But I mean, really, if he realized how weak this Gaussian carrier was, he could just push in and kill it. The cruise missile's gonna land, gonna do quite a lot of damage on this carrier. He's got it down to about 1/3 health. Oh, good on Rompafrolic, he got down another one of Descara's artifacts. But now this carrier knows that he's in charge, and he's just gonna march in here and slay this carrier almost certainly. Rompafrolic, frantically hobbling out of the map, has gotten a nice artifact. It's gonna give him some more auto heal on his carrier. But Descara is in hot pursuit, and if not the carrier, he stands to mop up all of this economy for Rompafrolic. The sand skimmers found a pretty nice backstab angle right here. Actually, this is quite nice. I really like that. But unfortunately, there's no damage upgrades on the sand skimmers. And so, with armor 2 finished on those railguns, it takes quite a long time to kill them. This carrier really just kind of, like... I mean, this is Descara's base, this is Rompafrolic's base, and then look where their carriers are. They've totally flopped positions. Putting power into healing, which is prudent. And actually, after Power Reserve 4 is finished, he can unpower these systems and put it all into healing, and he'll have healing 5. But this carrier is coming. And it's angry. It's hangry, man. It wants death. And I don't see any way that Rompafrolic is possibly going to get out of this. Descara has got him sussed, as we would say. We can watch it in cinematic glory if we desire. This game is pretty darn cool looking. Yeah, of course it's gonna finish it all with a cruise missile, why not, you know? Boom. That's game. Really kind of an uninteresting first game to the series, if you ask me. It just seemed like Rompafrolic like got control of the middle and then he held it. And then Descara was like, okay, well, I mean, I can just go for economy here. Built up a mega carrier, built a bunch of railguns, and then just sort of smashed him into the ground. Nothing particularly special there, but we will see what Rompafrolic can do to adapt to this in the next round from this series. Right, Will, I've just realized that the game that I just cast was actually map 2 from that series. So, that's rather interesting. But I don't feel like going back and recording the video again. We'll pretend as if that had been the first map in the series, and now we'll go ahead and watch, you know, map 2, right? That's pretty awkward, but, you know, I'm new to this, okay? You gotta forgive me a little bit. The map for actual map 1, but we're going to call it map 2 for us, is Canyon Outpost right here. The 4-player map, so going to be some 4-player map madness, of course. This would have been Rompafrolic's pick, actually, because the way that the system worked was that the player with a lower seed got to pick maps first, which would have been Rompafrolic, so he chose to play on a bigger map, possibly because he wants to kind of throw things up in the air. Well, not like kind of throw up, but he wants to toss things up into the air a little bit. That's a better way to say that. Of course, it's a little more difficult to predict what players are going to do in 4-player maps, but honestly, I have an inkling that this is going to favor Descara because, I mean, you know, a coalition carry is super powerful if you get enough power, and of course, he's got like potentially 6 bases to work off of here. And we saw in the last map that Rompafrolic did not really do a very good job economically speaking. If we see a repeat of that in this game, then he's basically just going to get, like, thrashed. Because you can go for big economy on the shallows. You can go for bigger economy on Canyon Outpost. And Sandscammer Fabrication is getting finished immediately for Rompafrolic. This is what we saw last game, too. But it's actually getting finished first for Descara. So that's a little interesting as well. It's possible he could go for some kind of an early AAV push or something like that. Yep, there's AAV fabrication being researched now. So looks like Descara just wants to go for early game AAVs, and of course he's kind of perfected this build. He can get them out like redonkulously fast. Rompafrolic, meanwhile, stands to be seen what he's going to do about it, but he is at least going to scout it because he has early game Sandskimmers coming up from his production cruiser. Now, you all know that this is like the thing that I always do, is that I send my production cruiser out, right? But crucially, what I'll do with these Sandskimmers is right after they pop out, I'll move them immediately to my opponent's base because I want to see what he's doing. I feel like that would be a good thing for Rompafrolic to start doing as well. Obviously, you need to be careful that they don't get singled out because then they can be killed while there's still just like one of them there instead of several. But it allows you to see like what tech your opponent's going for. You'll be like, oh, hey, look at that, it's an AAV. Now I know that it's here when the AAV is here, rather than when the AAV is here, and obviously that's big disparity in time. Or in this case, you know, he'd see the AAVs probably when they're like there, instead of when they're at his opponent's carrier. Still, that's a big disparity in time. And in fact, Descara, having seen all these Sandskimmers with his probe here, could even send the AAVs off this way so that they don't get spotted until they run into the scanner. So, it's usually a good thing to try to get scouting information from these early Sandskimmers as well. You know, it makes sense. If you're going to go for early aggression and you have the opportunity to scout as well, why not do that too, right? So Descara has seen early game Sandskimmers. He has not seen the position of the scanner, but that's probably not going to be a big deal. And he's going for fighters and gunship this time. Maybe this explains why Rompafrolic goes for missile ship so early in the second one. Maybe he's about to just get like air cheesed to death. We will have to see. Second turret now going down for this base runner here. Descara seeing the exact position of the sand skimmers. He probably wants to try to find out where that production cruiser is, and he almost has seen it. This one hero LAV here thinks he's tough. Actually, the sand skimmers definitely should have chased because they can kill this. Looks like they're going to. Maybe he was just a little bit late on the draw there. Rompafrolic is going to get his first artifact out. I really like that. Especially if he's about to get on the defense because of AAV pushes. You know, having an artifact out would be a big deal. There goes the UAV from Descara, so no more scouting for you. Oh yeah, by a second base runner, by the way. Yeah, see, look, it is a probe strategy because he killed the probe with it. Anyway, I make too many jokes about his base runners. Don't feel like I'm personally attacking Rompafrolic. I just think it's funny. Rompafrolic actually getting a sick kill on that LAV there. It looked like he was just gonna, you know, lose a couple units to the AAVs like you usually do, but actually he traded 1 for 1, so very well done. Second artifact getting ported away now by the second base runner. And this is not necessarily a mistake, by the way, to have 2, because if you can get 2 early game artifacts out like this, that's actually, you know, worth the CUs for the base runner. I only think it's weird when we start seeing like 5 base runners out on the field at the same time, but now these AAVs, I'm not going to be able... Oh, turret's firing. Don't you love that thing? Kill 3 sand skimmers. Is he going to get a 4th? Yep. 4 sand skimmers for the turret. Like, that's actually a pretty even loss, like, economically speaking. But you lose so much time, too, as you're having to fight them, and you lose, you know, military presence on the map, whereas your opponent really doesn't. Turrets get me tilted, man. Anyway, here come the strike fighters for Descara. And Rompafrolic went for early railguns, but he's got no idea this is coming, although I like this. He's going for honor guard cruisers immediately. That is spicy. That's spicy, I say, because we never see this, you know, like, this is pretty unique. To go for honor guard cruisers first, like, why would you do that? So it's really interesting, and could potentially do some damage too. I mean, honor guard cruiser is actually a pretty good anti-air, although you have to turn off the main weapon to use it, which is kind of a drag. But there are air units on the field already. Honor guard cruiser is very good against everything basically, so long as you don't, or except for siege, I guess. So I'm really curious to see what he can get done with that. Is this base runner gonna get out? Oh my gosh! Yes, it is gonna get out. That was really close though. Rompafrolic will be happy about that one. He's got 2 artifacts already. Base runners have anti-air actually, by the way, but it's pretty negligible. Like here, you'll shoot it. You'll see him dackering away at these guys. Oh, I got you! I got you! But it doesn't actually do anything. It's pretty funny. It's almost like, why do they even have it? It's like the carriers in Homeworld Remastered, you know, like, ooh, it's shooting at my fighters. Good thing it doesn't do anything, you know, like, why does it even have point defenses if it can't actually hit anything? First honor guard cruiser already on the way for Rompafrolic. And he's already got refinery mode too. So his economy is looking okay, although I'm not sure why he's mobilizing his carrier so early. I feel like he can't really get much out of this. Be better to have him over here kind of fielding a third base as Descara is doing. Actually, Descara is only on 2. But like I said, you know, if Rompafrolic has his carrier here, he's got the economic advantage. And actually, it almost looks like a production cruiser could fall from Rompafrolic. Not sure he's moving that production cruiser. He's moving it back. I'm not sure exactly how many strike fighters it takes to one hit, like, to single volley kill a production cruiser, or single ammo capacity edge miss kill a I don't know how to say that. You know, kill him in 1 run before having to return to the carrier, but it's probably less than 7. So I feel like Descara could actually have taken out a production cruiser there. Little wing of sand skimmers on the right side here gets cleaned up by these AAVs. I love that sound of like the bullet hitting the middle. Ping, 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 ping. It's super nice sounding. And it's something you wouldn't really notice too, because you never zoom in that far in game, but there really are sounds like that play when you go in that close. I think that's a really nice touch. These strike fighters still looking for blood. Interestingly, they're going to find that there's nothing on the field for them to shoot at, which is not a usual predicament, but probably one that Descara is comfortable with. Has Honor Guard Cruiser Anti-Air been finished? No. Oh wow, that's expensive. Oh boy, that is expensive. So no, that hasn't been done. So Rompafrolic's gonna hope to use missile ships as his anti-air capabilities, solely missile ships, which can work. No problem with that. Although I would like to see him use like anti-air on the Honor Guard cruisers that he didn't have to make missile ships in the first place, but it's too late for that, obviously. Alright, Descara spotted the Honor Guard cruiser, and I think he just now saw it, although he may have seen it earlier while he was flying near the carrier there. Large number of strike fighters now circulating in the air. There's got to be like at least 10 of them over there. Can I count? Let's find out. There's 9. Well, okay. The point is there's a lot of them. Almost as many as there are scanners on the map, thanks to all these base runners. Fun fact you may not have known, when base runners use their heal ability, it actually heals air units too. And so, yeah, he healed Descara's air units, like all the damage that was done to them actually got healed there. I think that's so funny. A little push of AAVs came in here, but it doesn't look like it was able to do much as assault railguns cleaned it out. Descara's poor base runner pilot gets murderized by this carrier here. And it's massive assortment of base runners. And this carrier is just feeling very alone, isn't it? There's now, you know, well, I mean, there already were 9 strike fighters, but Descara is getting his power reserves like he always does, and this carrier is just kind of sitting here. I mean, it's got a flock of base runners, but we've seen how effective those are. This carrier could, like, actually just get sniped by Descara, like, whenever he wants to. That's kind of funny. It's just so many base runners, like... I feel like in the last games he already had lots of base runners, but now he's just trying to like set a personal record. Like, yeah, I mean, I could play in the semifinals, or I could just try to show you how many base runners I can make at the same time against Descara. This is so funny. I mean, like, he could have been making Honor Guard cruises this whole time. He's got the resources for it, but nah, base runners. That's really funny. Alright, well, the LAVs are trying to go in for a little bit of a poke here. These assault railguns here are definitely going to be able to shut that down, though. I mean, it looks like Descara is playing really passively, right? Like, he's just not like, oh, how do I play this game type of stuff, right? But what's really going on here is that he's like, well, if you're not going to attack me at all, I'm just going to get cruise missiles and kill you. Which is exactly what we saw in the last game, so... It looks like he's just stalling for time or something, but in reality, he's winning this game for sure. Thanks to the merits of the coalition faction. Yeah, and look, I did say he would get onto a lot of bases, right? He's on 4 right now. That's more than you usually see. Oh, but the base runner count. They're constricting. They're moving into formation. Strike fighters now targeting this Honor Guard cruiser. They should be able to make short work of that. Again, base runner heal comes down, but that's a little bit counterintuitive because it just means that the strike fighters don't actually take any damage to their AA. Cruise missile getting launched. Goodbye, base runners. Actually, they lived. But now they're going to get killed by this carrier here. My frame rate begins to drop at the same speed as my hope for Rompafrolic winning this game. Oh, but it's more cinematic this way. Anyway, and now Rompafrolic really caught in a position he doesn't want to be in. I don't think he's going to be able to escape here, although Galzian carriers are slipperier than bars of soap, so it could be possible. The missile ship's finally getting some shots off on these strike fighters. That don't matter none such. I honestly feel like all these strike fighters should just... Oh no, this missile ship's actually over the carrier, right? I was gonna say they should just fly over the carrier and kill it, but if there's missile ships here, that won't work. And actually, they're getting murderized by these things because they took my advice. I'm sorry, strike fighter pilots. I didn't really mean it. I think they were trying to dock is the problem, and of course, if you dock on the carrier when there's all these things lying around, you know, you die. So that's a little unfortunate for him. Any additional tech choices coming out here? Yeah, he's researched battle cruisers, hasn't he? Descara has, but he's not built any. I don't suppose he will. Probably he built them thinking, well, maybe I'll use these if things actually get a little hairy, but they haven't, so. Yeah, and like I said, it looks like he's just kind of, he's got his opponent's carrier now exactly where he wants it. He's basically just going to kill this thing off here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, actually, Rompafrolic could put all of his power into speed. Oh no, don't take it out of speed. Oh. Because the regen on the Galzian carrier is, like, quite good, but it's not good enough that you can actually get away with that. I feel like taking it out of speed was just kind of suicide right there. The strike fighters are hungry. They're coming in. And it is indeed net damage being done to this carrier. Oh, but there's a cruise missile too, just in case you were a little unsure about whether Descara was going to take this or not. Oh, incoming missile, get out of the way. That was a little late. Not only that, but that was a high ground nuke. This is kind of a weird thing that Garmulator discovered, but like if you get on top of high ground, I think I've actually already said this, but it does like considerably more damage because it gets high ground bonus for some reason. Because that really makes a lot of sense. Right. Well, that was kind of a boring series. It was a lot more exciting to watch Rompafrolic versus Descara in like the Swiss section, and he actually put up like a decent fight, and he was showing some pretty good unit micro, and he was kind of like sort of attacking Descara, and then Descara was like, okay, I'm going to win now. But this time it was just kind of like Rompafrolic just said, I can make base runners, and Descara was like, well, I can tech up to carrier power level 5 and kill you. And that's basically what happened. So, not the most enjoyable series to watch, but there it is. And we'll move on to the series between Garmulator and myself. Descara moving on to the grand finals. They're grand, after all.